We are coming to you live, once again from the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you can handle the truth. Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Call in and ask a question at 800-313-9443 or listen at 605-313-0163. Our newsletter is free, and you can receive a copy by writing Frank at targetedmassachusetts.org. In the subject line, type newsletter or visit our site at targetedmassachusetts.org. And in the navigation, go to contact information. Please fill in your name, email address, and cell number, and a short message if you like. Or you can call me in the U.S. at 1-508-857-8334. Targeted Massachusetts Northeast Conference airs Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. By phone, 515-604-9715. Access code 708922. ID targeted. If you'd like to join us by computer, in your address bar type freeconferencecall.com/wall/targeted. We have quite an event happening in Washington, D.C. on October the 18th through the 22nd. Targeted Protest 2019. Targeted Justice is hosting a rally and protest event in our nation's capital. Registration fee is $35 and includes a free T-shirt. You can go to targetedmassachusetts.org and click on Targeted Protest 2019 and get the information, or you can go to targetedjustice.org and get any follow-up information, such as rain days. We encourage you to request a 5-minute meeting with your congressman. You will need to make a request several weeks in advance. Make the request through your congressman's website and ask for an appointment on October 21st or the 22nd. The website is as follows: https://www.house.gov/representatives. And I hope to see you there. Tonight, Janet Phelan, journalist in exile, is with us once more for part 2, where we get the details. Okay, Janet, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I want to thank you very much for inviting me back on to go into, I guess, in greater depth, the issues we were talking about last night. Just to briefly recap, the perspective I was presenting last night is that while there is indeed a global chessboard at play that is defining events that are happening on a world stage as well as on a domestic U.S. stage, the real chessboard is not what we're being presented and told about. The chessboard, the public chessboard, the chessboard they talk about, refers to the spreading of democracy and human rights, how it's necessary to invade countries because they're undemocratic or they're rife with terrorism. And there's also things happening on the domestic stage which are explained to us as efforts to enhance and our rights and also to protect us. But in fact, the perspective that I'm trying to advance here is that the real chessboard is defined differently. The real chessboard can be defined as containing a eugenics impetus and is seeking total control. So we're told one thing while actually pretty much the opposite is what's happening. So last night we talked about a number of different manifestations of the real chessboard, the eugenics chessboard, and how this is becoming clearer through an examination of certain issues in the U.S. We talked about a number of issues. We talked about what's happening to the elderly and disabled under guardianship. We talked about the homeless. We talked about human experimentation, and also how the bioweapons, the covert, illegal bioweapons program that the U.S. has launched factors into the destruction of targeted groups. One of the things that we did not bring up last night was, and this was, my error here, was as another piece of evidence of the impetus towards eugenics and control was the fact that police are getting away with murder. It is very rare now when a police kills a U.S. citizen for the police officer to have any culpability or any legal ramifications. Rarely, sometimes, but usually not. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about this is that as one would expect when one is trying to present a totally false persona to the world, the U.S. is actually lying to the world community about what's happening with prosecutions of abusive police officers. I did an article a few years ago for New Eastern Outlook that was entitled Just Say Anything. And I was following the 2015 Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights that took place at the UN, focused on the U.S. What they do at the UN is they have a system where every few years they examine the human rights record of a certain block of countries, and the other countries get to weigh in, NGOs also get to weigh in, and so forth, and then the U.S. gets to defend or comment on its record. And I watched the video of these presentations, and it was quite shocking because the U.S. got up in front of the world community and said that there were 400 federal prosecutions of abusive police officers in the time period covered by this UPR, Universal Periodic Review. And I didn't think that was so, because this is an issue that I've been following. So I started doing my Google search. I came up with about a half dozen, but in order to check my perceptions, I went ahead and talked to a number of professors at some of the high-profile law schools, like Bolt Hall at UC Berkeley, and they confirmed my perception that there had been about a half a dozen prosecutions, not 400. And there were similar lies that the U.S. was put forth to the world community. Every time that you could fact check, every time that the U.S. was saying that was giving a number, that number can be fact checked. And
Janet?
yes.
I just wanted to interject that it seems like we have an ever-growing propaganda machine.
Well, the Ministry of Truth, George Orwell's Ministry of Truth had nothing on what the U.S. is doing. Now, this is of interest to me because the delegate from the United States Department of Justice, who was explaining to the world community about these 400 non-existent prosecutions, was actually, and this is important, he was a black man. And as we know, those of us who are following the news know that a lot of these police abuse situations and police killings are targeting black people. So they had a black man get up there because I guess he would have more credibility and lie to the entire world community about what the U.S. was doing. Now, similarly, there were other lies being told. There was a delegate from the U.S., I believe he was with the Department of the Interior, and his name was Kevin Washburn, and he identifies as being a member of an Indian tribe, but nevertheless, he works for the U.S. government. And he got up at this convening and told the world community that the U.S. had restored 1 million acres to tribes. And this is again in the time period covered by the UPR, which is, I think, 3 or 4 years. In fact, the same gentleman, Kevin Washburn, had gotten up in front of the U.S. The House of Representatives. It was a particular subcommittee, and there's 2 representatives that the U.S. had restored 300,000 acres. That's 1/3 of the amount that he inflated 2 weeks later. So we can see how the U.S. is using individuals who might be considered to be, I hate to use the word Uncle Tom, but, who might have certain affiliations that might give them more credibility, like being a black man talking about police abuse, or like being from an Indian tribe talking about returning land to Indians. And the U.S. is simply feeding these people their lines, and they get up and lie. So, back to the issue of people being killed by police. It's generally running around somewhere around 1,400 U.S. citizens a year. These were figures that were being logged in by a website called killedbypolice.net. And I understand that the website has been taken down, but for a number of years it was tracking police kills through media reports and also tracking, when possible, the race and gender of the individual who was killed or murdered by the local Gestapo. So I think that this is an important point to bring up, when we're talking about what the U.S. is really all about now. And the point, again, that I was trying to make on yesterday's show is that we've taken a turn into a very different situation, where we have a facade of freedom and justice, and we have this chessboard that we put out to the world where we have to invade this country because they violate their citizens' rights, or they threaten us, or something like that, when in fact the entire motive, particularly of the U.S.'s involvement in the Middle East, can be boiled down to a eugenics motive. Stop for a second and take a drink of water if you have any questions.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's one point. I'm going to come at you from the other side of the aisle. There are many policemen also that are killed every year under terrible conditions. One police officer walked up to someone he'd pulled over on the side of the road, and the man in the car blew his head off. So I'm not saying that what you say is not true. I'm just saying on the other side of the aisle, the policemen lose a lot of officers every year.
You know, it's a dangerous job, and you're absolutely right. But, Frank, those people get prosecuted. The police don't. That's the point I'm making here.
That's the point I was helping you make.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
The thing that gets me, that it really riles me up, are the older people that are in this eugenics program that just disappear. And you went into that briefly with this lawyer that was actually disbarred in 2015, but still continued to operate through other people. And she was so high up that she is hard to take down.
Yes, I think you're talking about Melody Scott. And just to quickly correct something, she was not a lawyer. She was a professional fiduciary, which is not a lawyer. It's somebody who the state has recognized as having, done certain coursework and so forth in order to get licensed to handle other people's financial affairs. And that the fiduciaries, the guardians, the conservators are indeed represented in court by attorneys, but they are very often not attorneys themselves. Sometimes they are, but often not.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Well, it's different in different states. In some states you have to be a lawyer to do this, and in some states, in California, where Melody Scott was operating, you don't have to be a lawyer. You have to be a licensed fiduciary. Now, this is where the protection. I'm interested in looking at the protection around certain kinds of individuals, like we just mentioned. When police kill citizens, they usually are protected. Usually the DAs won't file charges against the police. They are protected. And, okay, I hear the music.
Okay, Janet, we have a commercial coming up. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Janet.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
We are coming to you live once again from the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you can handle the truth. And thanks to people like John Stadmiller, the owner of the station, and Mike S., my producer, we can do that. Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. You can call in and ask a question at 800-313-9443 or listen at 605-313-0163. I'm going to forego our advertising as time is short, and I'm going to get right back to Janet Phelan. Go ahead, Janet.
Thank you so much, Frank. So what we were talking about before the break was the indications that certain people, certain processes are being protected from any legal culpability. You know, one tends to be police officers who kill people. Why would that be? Okay, another process that seems to be protected are these guardians for the elderly, whom it is now becoming widely known, thanks to some of the major media that is being done on guardianship. There have been articles in Forbes, in the Wall Street Journal, in the New Yorker, and elsewhere, talking about the abuses going on with these guardians who get appointed by the court to, quote-unquote, take care of an elderly or infirm person. That includes the right to take over all the person's assets and to stand in for them with decision making, like where does the person get to live? Does the person get to see their family? Does the person get medical care? Now, seeing that the guardian takes over all that person's money as well as all their rights, there is an obvious a motive for abuse here. Okay, so but we're finding that these guardians are also protected. The issues that have been reported in these previously named publications, different cases and so forth, people, basically all the loved ones, the family members who become concerned about what's happening to their elder loved one, basically they go through the same sort of route. They go to the district attorney, they go to the police, they go to the FBI, they go to the media, and they go to Adult Protective Services. And wherever they go, the doors are slammed in their face. Yes?
We have a caller, Catherine from Georgia. I think she has a question for you. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay.
Yes. Hi. I'd like to ask 2 questions. First of all, will you do a story about any of us, especially Mr. Allen there, about, TIs?
Janet, actually...
I've done articles.
Yes,
I've done articles on targeting, but go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Janet Phelan writes for a number of different publications, and we are spreading the word as we speak right now, and it's recorded, and it's filed, and it's available to the public. And Janet does write for the oh God, I hate when that happens.
Activist Post.
Activist Post. I'm sorry.
There you go.
It's one of my favorite publications, too. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, and I'd like to ask, also, there is a book, Mold People, Life in the Tunnels Beneath New York City. There's one particular chapter in there, it's called JC's Community. And how might a TI be able to go down there if they are disabled? Because I was considering something like that for myself. But I don't know how to contact the writer. Her name is Jennifer Toth, Toth.
I would probably advise against it, because you're going to find conditions down there way below standard, way below your standards. And those people have cordoned themselves off from society in a way by living down there, and they have their own ways, their own rules, and their own laws, and I would be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a 3-minute commercial coming up. Catherine, you can hang on if you'd like. We'll be right back, and thank you.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We are coming to you live from the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you can handle the truth. And we tell it here. Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. You can call in and ask a question at 800-313-9443, or you can just listen at 605-313-0163. Our newsletter is free, and you can receive a copy by writing Frank at targetedmassachusetts.org. In the subject line, type newsletter, or visit our site at targetedmassachusetts.org. And in the navigation, go to contact information. And please fill in your name, email address, cell number, and a short message. Or you can call me in the U.S. at 1-508-857-8334. Targeted Massachusetts Northeast Conference airs Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, and is running as we speak. Access by phone 515-604-9715. Access code 708922. ID targeted. If you'd like to join us by computer, in your address bar type freeconferencecall.com/wall/targeted. We have a very special event taking place in Washington, D.C. from October the 18th through the 22nd. Targeted Justice is hosting a rally and protest event in our nation's capital. Registration fee is $35 and includes a free t-shirt. We encourage you to request a 5-minute meeting with your congressman. You will need to make a request several weeks, and I mean several weeks in advance. Make the request through your congressman's website and ask for an appointment on October the 21st or October the 22nd. The website address is as follows: https://www.house.gov/representatives. In case you've just tuned in, a very special journalist, Janet Phelan, is here with us. Go ahead, Janet.
Thank you so much, Frank. And really, thank you so much for what you're doing for the community by making these announcements. I think this protest is very important, and I think it's wonderful that you're picking up on this and putting this information out. So back to what we were saying is when we have certain processes that are being protected and where normal laws don't apply, then you might be able to start asking questions. Well, why would that be? What is it about this process? And unfortunately, what we're finding is that most of the protected processes are involving killing people. And ergo, we start to talk about eugenics. So with the elderly and disabled, as we discussed last night on your show, they were, in fact, the first target group of Hitler's eugenics program. He gassed several thousand ethnic Germans, not Jews, who were considered elderly or infirm. Useless eaters, we don't need them around. They're a blot on the bright German future. And unfortunately, we're seeing a similar, somewhat slower process taking place in the U.S. When people are put under guardianship. They are very often sequestered. They're kept away from family and friends. In some cases, well, there was an infamous case out in Florida where the daughter, there was a guardian appointed who was a professional guardian, and the daughter went to see her mother in the home that guardian had put the mother in and found her emaciated, and the daughter was alarmed, and she took her out of the facility to have some lunch. And as things evolved, she was arrested. The daughter was arrested and put in prison.
She was put in prison?
Yes. There was a fairly attenuated, excuse me, that's the wrong word. There was a fairly extended legal case that evolved here. The daughter kept being put in jail over and over again because it was called custody interference. So custody. So when you become an older person and you go under a guardianship, you basically become the property of the guardian. And if somebody dares to remove an elderly person, a parent, from the facility where the guardian has decided that person needs to go, you've therefore committed a crime. So, this was Barbara Stone's case, and this got quite a bit of attention in the media. We have to go back to understanding, I think, why certain processes get protected. Why, for example, there was a case I followed with Melody Scott, the guardian in California. This was a very strange case because she had put an older man who was homeless in Redlands. He was very well known in Redlands. He was kind of like a professor type, and he liked to hang out in the library and read. He wasn't like a public drunk or anything. And there were some rumors that he had just come into quite a bit of money, and Melody Scott swooped in and put him under a guardianship. And then things began to get seriously strange because I started trying to follow this case, and I found out that the lawyer representing Melody Scott in this case, Brian Hartnell, was also representing the person under guardianship. Now, this is an adversarial situation. So Brian Hartnell is representing Charlie Castle, the ward, and also the guardian, Melody Scott. And to make things worse, the judge pro tem who was presiding over the case had been a member of Brian Hartnell's law firm. Talk about a fix.
Yes.
So, there wasn't any culpability for Brian Hartnell for representing both sides of the case. When this was brought to light and this was published, he resigned, okay? But he didn't get disbarred. So certain processes are protected. And I'd like to segue into a bit of what we were talking about last night about the homeless and how the homeless are disappearing. And I did an article recently about how around 2009, 40,000 people disappeared almost overnight, from the streets of Los Angeles. These were homeless people. And the homeless census reflected that disappearance. And interestingly, it happened right around the time of the financial crisis, which was essentially launched in 2008. So there should have been more people on the streets, not a sudden huge drop in the census. So, what happened here? What happened? So when I
fear for the worst.
So when there was a hub homeless agency in Santa Monica, which is just adjacent to Los Angeles, and some of the figures of the census also, of course, they apply to Santa Monica as well. So I approached Ocean Park Community Center, which is listed as a private agency, although 99% of its funding is from government. And I asked them for their census. I wanted to see, not their census, but their service figures for the years revolving around the disappearance. Now, for some reason or another, they decided they didn't have to release these. After that, I was contacted by a very brave woman who is an advocate for homeless rights in Santa Monica. And she pulled up all these egregious legal violations that this Ocean Park Community Center had been involved in. Not only abuse of residents in their facilities, but failing to be licensed, failing to, adhere to very rigid codes, okay? I mean, this agency was really flying by the seat of its pants. So this homeless activist proceeded to, who, by the way, has 2 master's degrees, one from, I believe, USC, proceeded to report OPCC, Ocean Park Community Center, to all of these regulatory agencies, and she ran into the same block. This agency was completely protected. Nobody was going to follow through on a complaint. They might admit that there was a violation, but nobody would do anything. Nobody would do anything. Now, the question is why? And what part, I want to ask this, what part did Ocean Park Community Center have in this enormous disappearance of homeless people around 2009?
That's a good question. It seems to me that if they disappeared all at once, they could have been moved to another facility and then singled out from there. We've heard of cases like this in California before. It's just
I don't know.
unfathomable, the amount of people that just wink out, disappear. And I imagine when you have a guardian for one individual, he gets control of all of this gentleman's Social Security.
Of course.
And picks the cheapest place to put the individual, probably. Deplorable.
I don't think they're putting the people up at the Ritz.
No. At this point in time, I think that people are just being killed somewhere. That many people all at once. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
I want to bring to the attention of the listening audience the implications of Army Regulation 210-35. You can certainly look it up for yourself. It was passed under Reagan, and it authorizes the setting up of inmate civilian labor camps on military bases. Okay? Well, all well and good. But you get deeper into the law, and there's some very disturbing verbiage. For example, it states there shall be no media coverage of these camps. It states that if there are deaths in the camps, no one is responsible. And it also states that these camps need to be set up in accordance with the McKinley Homeless Assistance Act. Now, does that sound like it's for homeless people?
It sure does.
So, what happened to all these people? Actually, I was in Santa Monica up until 2006, and I knew some people who were homeless, and I had their email addresses. And at the time of the disappearance, when I tried to email these people, their email addresses had been disabled. So I really don't know. But, what we're seeing is that we have a protected process. We have a protected agency, OPCC, and people, I'd like to get into, briefly the targeting issue now, the targeting human experimentation. This is also a protected issue because people who are targeted have been trying for years. They have filed lawsuits. They have gone to the police. They have gone to the Attorney General. They have gone here. They have gone there. And they achieve the same level of disinterest and sometimes even really rude, ugly behavior. Sometimes they're even, put it to mental hospitals. They do not get relief. So again, you have a protected process. Now, what is this protection for? I want to bring up something. There was a facility at UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute, which is a big public mental hospital, but a kind of a nice one in Westwood, California. And they had a special unit. It was called A South. And it was not part of the big multi-level fancy building, okay? It was like over to the side on the grounds. It was a one-story building. And I have records about A South. And they were doing human experimentation there, mostly with electricity. They were shocking people, giving them electric shocks beyond what is considered acceptable. They were giving people medications that induce seizures. Now, like I said, I have records concerning A South. A South was destroyed. It was razed to the ground in 2005. And when I contacted UCLA NPI to ask them some questions about A South, was there, for example, was there special funding for A South? Where was this funding coming from? They denied it ever existed. Like I said, I have records. And I have names of psychiatrists who worked on A South. And I have the admission of other psychiatrists from NPI. They certainly knew about A-South. But the official story is there was no such place.
You should go to the city and get the building plans for the place, unless they were also removed.
Well, that's a very good idea. I appreciate that. So, what was A-South all about? Why were they just dosing these people with electricity? This was an experimental project. I am convinced of it. Who was running the experiment? Where was the money coming from? Nobody will even admit it exists. So, again, we have the protected processes that we have all point towards eugenics. They point towards human experimentation and death.
Janet, I'm sure there are police and university police that would swear that the building was there. If you could get an employment record of those university police, that would be interesting.
I spoke with Dr. Michael Gitlin, who was a high mucky muck at UCLA, and I believe he's still there, Dr. Michael Gitlin. And we had a conversation, and I brought up A-South. He goes, oh, yeah, that was one of our treatment units. Everybody knew about A-South. So,
well, I think
in the last minute, sorry.
I think what they did there goes far beyond possibly what you said.
It may have. It
could
may
possibly go into an area that is supported the brain implants and knowledge that they have accumulated on communicating with the human brain.
They were doing something. And, at this point, it's been buried so deep, and the building itself no longer exists. How strange is that? I wonder if we'll ever know. In the last remaining minutes, I want to briefly bring up the bioweapons agenda, because this, I believe, is where everything moves to an end point. As discussed in that article that I sent you the other day, I've sort of stumbled across what appears to be a very covert and actually underground system, which can, by the way that it's constructed and set up, can be used to, exterminate a whole lot of under some sort of mantle of clean hands. And that is the double-line water system. And once again, we have the U.S., scurrying to protect the system. Every contact I've made with city water departments, with Department of Homeland Security, with the State Department, has resulted in statements like, either we can't discuss that's national security, or we don't know what you're talking about, or sorry, we've got to go now, okay? So you have a system there that can selectively basically pump in something from the second line into pre-selected houses. I'd like to encourage those listening. I've written dozens of articles on this, and other people have picked up on this as well. One article, U.S. water systems may be used for a WMD attack. That lays it out pretty clearly, and it also shows one of the blueprints that I was able to get. And these blueprints were gotten by me just before I was forced to flee the U.S., and that's an entirely other, story for another time. But the blueprints absolutely show that the system is set up exactly as it would have to be set up if it were to function as a selective delivery system. And that means, Frank, they can basically switch the valve for your house. They can bypass your neighbor. They can go to the next house, bypass that. They can hit the whole street, depending on who they want to contaminate and infect. So I tied the strong probability that this system will be publicly declared to be a pandemic. The health departments will all get involved, and people will be sick and dying, and nobody is going to cop to the fact that this came in through the water system and that the valves were controlled by the U.S. government.
Wow. That's quite a story. There are so many.
Well, I want to say something. It may sound fantastic. Read the articles. Look at the blueprints. All of the documentation supports this perception.
Well, I certainly will. I have a few docs that I want to send you to that you can look at.
Great.
I'd just like to say thank you, Janet, very much for your time, and your presentation is excellent. And I would also like to thank our audience for ever listening and getting smarter and learning about this government of ours and governments around the world. So, good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. God bless.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.